what are we talking about today? Well, it's part 2 of periodization, where we're going to talk about how do I implement these principles? Like, how do I change it up? Now remember, what is periodization? It's planned or programmed variation and rest so you can reach a peak goal, right? Whether that's mass, whether that's getting shredded, whether that's getting enormous, whether it's getting super strong or powerful, right? So the thing is, okay, I need to switch it up, right? Paul made a really good comment to me earlier. Periodization is about not getting too comfortable, right? It's about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's how you make gains. So let's talk about the amount of time you need to switch things up, okay? If you look at guys who maybe been training for a year, maybe been training under a year, studies show that periodization is better than not periodizing, but that you don't have to switch it up that often. You may have to only switch it up every month, okay? So you might be training like in an 8 to 12 repetition range, and then the next month maybe switch it up to 8 to 10 reps, changing the exercise complex maybe once a month, okay? But what we found is that the more well-trained that you are, the more you need to switch it up. So you've been training for 3 years, you might need to switch it up every 1 to 2 weeks, right? If you've been training for like over 5 years, over 10 years, you need to change it up probably every workout. In fact, if you look at the West Side guys, those guys, some of the most advanced lifters in the world, literally change it up every single workout, okay? So I think that's key to understand. The more advanced you become, the more you need to change it up. But can you find yourself in a situation where you're advanced and you don't want to switch it up as much? The only time that would be the case, in essence, is really when you're an individual who took a few months off. Say you took a month off training, took 2-3 months off from training. In that case, you're going to respond like you're untrained, and you might want to just focus on the basics for 1 to 2 to 3 months, and then you can switch it up more often. Okay? So those are some things that you really want to take home. So when we talk about changing things up, how do we change things up? Well, there's a lot of different things that we can utilize. Okay? Starting from the intensity, right? The intensity, in essence, is how heavy you're lifting, okay? So I can have my super heavy days, which if I'm a power lifter, that's really going to be sets of 5 to 8 repetitions, okay? If you're a bodybuilder, you're not powerlifting, I don't see why you need too many days where you're really focusing on sets of 1 or sets of 2 or triples. Your heavy days are more like 5 to 8 reps, maybe even very high maybe sets of 10, for example. Then you're going to have your moderate days, which are going to more be your bread and butter, and that's going to be 8 to 12, no more than 15 repetitions. You're focusing on the pump. You're focusing on conditioning, okay? And then you might have your super high rep days, which are greater than 20 repetitions, okay? So that's what we call intensity variation. Other variations that we have are your rest period lengths, right? If you're doing more of a metabolic training day, you might rest 30 to 60 seconds, no more than 90. If you're doing your heavy days, you might rest anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, okay? So those are your rest period. That's ways you can switch that up there. Then there's the exercise selection component. We did some research a couple years ago where we found that one of the most important ways to change the workout up, in fact, the most important ways to change things up for hypertrophy is the exercise selection itself. I hear so many guys come to me and say, I can't make gains anymore. Like, I'm changing the reps up, I'm changing the sets up, and I'm like, well, what do you do? Well, you know, every time I do legs, I always do back squats. Every time I do chest, I always do bench press. What I'm going to tell you right now is this. If you are not making gains and you're tracking, you're logging your progress, go back and look at all the exercises you've been doing for the last 6 months and delete all of them. Now go to the gym and say, for the next 3 months, I'm going to do exercise I have not done in the last 6 months to a year. I refuse to do any of them. Now you're going to have to get creative. And that creativity is going to force growth. And that, I think, is a key element that you have, guys, right? Again, other ways to switch it up is the angle that you're exercising at, the focus, whether I'm focusing internally on it or externally on the muscle. There's all these things you can do, okay? So that's it, guys. Love you. I'll talk to you next time about another principle, which is called auto-regulation. Thanks so much. See you next time.